Hey guys, it's Chris. From extremely intricate sculptures to technology way ahead of its time, here are 9 of the most mysterious archaeological finds in the world. Number 9. Jain temples. Located in the nation of India, the town of SHROUD, try saying that 3 times fast, is a pilgrimage point for many, mainly because of the exotic Jain temples that reside there. The mystery of this location lies not just in the temples, but the way the temples were constructed. The Jainist temples were built more than 1,000 years ago, and if you look at them closely, you'll find a lot of intricate details. So why does that matter? The details go beyond the carvings and shapes of the stones. They're made in such a way that they're perfectly symmetrical. But how did they do this with limited tools? Another of the mysteries of this Jain mandir is the color of the pillars changing throughout the day. The color can vary from gold to blue depending on the amount of light that falls on the monuments. Considering that the temple is made of amber, it's likely that some minerals are reflected in the light at different angles to give a certain color tone. One of the temples here is called the Ranakpur. The entire weight of this colossal structure rests on 1,444 pillars. But what's the most seductive thing about this temple? Despite the many pillars that support it, none of them have the same design. Don't you think that's fascinating? I do. Stop and think for a moment about all this generation had to tell us. Number 8. Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe was apparently made 6,000 years before Stonehenge, putting it very likely to be 11,000 years ago in terms of being built. The structure itself is nearly 2,500 feet above sea level and is nearly 1,000 feet in diameter. At first, it was believed that Göbekli Tepe was nothing more than a cemetery due to its placement and objects found initially. However, a series of pillars with ancient writings on them were later discovered, showing that it wasn't just a cemetery. As for its purpose in Turkey, that's up for debate. The person who discovered the importance of it, Klaus Schmidt, believed that it was a sanctuary area, which lines up with things not found in the area, as in things that would make for home or colony for certain people. In 2018, the site was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, ensuring that it will be protected and preserved. So far, the function of this structure remains indecipherable. The German Archaeological Institute has been studying this site since 1996, but large portions of it still remain unexcavated. Number 7. Baghdad batteries. If there's one thing that archaeological finds can have in common, it's being found in a forgotten piece of land or an ancient cemetery. So the question arises, how was this artifact used so long ago? Or simply, what was it created for? Well, that's how it was found in ancient Mesopotamia. What could be a battery capable of generating power. As for how it was constructed, the jars that contained the battery elements were of terracotta, but the insides contained a copper rod and a spike as well as asphalt cork at the top. But before it was sealed, the battery was said to be filled with an acidic liquid. Most believed it was either lemon juice or grape juice. The result was something that could indeed produce an electric charge. The batteries were believed to have been built in 250 BC, but what could be the purpose of them? Weirdly enough, the mystery grew to such heights that it went into the series Mythbusters when they tried to figure it out. Electroplating, acupuncture via using the electric jolts to ease pain like in some modern practices, and as a religious experience were found plausible as possible uses. But the catch was that a singular battery didn't have enough juice to really do much of anything. But put enough of them together, they could produce up to 2 volts of electricity. Still, it makes you wonder, did they know that the various elements that comprised the battery would really work? Number 6. Stone Age tools that rewrite history. The idea of mankind as it spread throughout the world is one of the biggest things that people debate about. And when new clues are found to help point out the true time frame of the origins, things can get both interesting and mysterious. In southern India, tools were found from very long ago, somewhere over 200,000 years ago at best guess. These tools were from the Stone Age, and yet they were over 150,000 years before the first group of Africans came out of the continent. So how did the tools end up in India, which is very far away from Africa? This clearly shows that populations with this culture were present in most parts of South Asia, adapting to local factors and with tool types evolving and changing through time. says Shanti Papau of the Sharma Institute for Heritage Education in India. The new theory that's being formed is that the Homo sapiens of Africa actually left the continent in massive groups. Some go out hundreds of thousands of years before the others for one reason or another. Interesting theory indeed, though previously not one that could be easily proven. Yet should this be true, it would paint a much different picture of the colonization of the world at large. Actually, they look like simple stones, so the next time you run into one, be careful, you could be behind an archaeological find. And now for number 6, but first, let me know your favorite archaeological find in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 5. The VOYNICH manuscript. The VOYNICH manuscript is a mystery that is yet to be solved in a variety of ways, including how you can define it. Because it's not simply a book, but rather a coded language of some kind that no one has yet been able to break, which only leads to more mysteries when you consider what's inside. A key mystery is that the manuscript was handwritten by the author with many strange illustrations. This is not the first time this has happened in history, but the text is written in a language that no one has yet managed to decipher. Therefore, all we have left are essentially scribbles and the images that were made. There are guesses as to whether it's Latin, Greek, or a combination or some sort of code. As for the drawings, some diagrams have been found that suggest astronomy, in which sun, moons, and stars are found. Besides, symbols have been seen that would represent the zodiacal constellations. We've also been able to detect a type of possible maps of islands connected by roads and naked women in bathtubs connected by pipes. Other deformed female shapes are floating in some sort of strange liquid. Why would they be drawn this way? What is really being represented here? Nobody really knows. This book was found in 1912 in Poland and was guessed to have been written by a man in the 15th century. Now, in the 21st century, we are still very much baffled by what this manuscript is about, and we're no closer to finding out its truth and its purpose. So, if you want to keep a personal journal without anyone discovering it, maybe you should try creating your own symbols and letters. Number 4. ANTIKYTHERA mechanism. When you hear the words ancient computer, your mind likely goes to the older days of technology where a computer could fill up a single room and be able to do only basic math problems. But in the case of the ANTIKYTHERA mechanism, it's something else entirely. This ancient computer dates back to 200 BCE near Greece, though it also doesn't do what you might think it does. In the year 1900, a shipwreck was found near the Greek island of Antikythera, which ironically was also the name of the ship found. In the wreckage, they found an old analog computer. This meant that they used the device to determine things that were going to happen in the world, without the need for electrical parts or databases of memory to calculate things. How they were able to come up with this, though, is a bit of a mystery. Specifically, this type of computer was used to help trace the position of stars, as well as determine the next solar and lunar eclipse. Regardless, the next type of computer likely wasn't made again until the 14th century. The mystery behind this artifact continues to be debated to this day for several reasons, including how the Greeks were able to do so with such precision, and how many more of these could exist. If one day you visit the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, you'll be able to see this very interesting device. Number 3. Terracotta Army. In 1974 in China, it was discovered the tomb of the first Chinese emperor of the Qin dynasty in the ground. An archaeological team began to excavate the area in order to find not just his remains, but what was buried with him, which led to quite the surprise. One of the diggers hit a statue with his shovel, but instead of bronze or another metal, it was made of terracotta. As they continued to dig within the tomb, they found 8,000 terracotta statues positioned around the burial site of the emperor. So what was the purpose of this? The followers of Emperor Qin Shi Huang wanted him to be protected in the afterlife, so they buried him with an army via the terracotta statues so he would have his loyal followers at his side should he need them. Yet what might be the most important part about the terracotta army is the detail in the making of the statues. First, each member of the terracotta army had a unique face. But while we have information about the tomb, there are still many questions, including why they felt the need to go to such effort, why terracotta instead of other more durable materials, and why wasn't this done for other emperors that followed? Do you think you know the answers to these questions? Let me know in the comments below. Number 2. Shroud of Turin. Many religious artifacts are debated throughout the world. but one of the biggest ones is the Shroud of Turin, a burial garment said to have been put into the tomb of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. The reason the shroud is so important is that it does seem to have an imprint of a man presumed to be Christ on it, as well as blood. And in the Christian faith, Christ rose from the dead after 3 days, so the shroud would not be in use and thus bear an image of their God. The reason for the controversy is simple. This artifact didn't appear until 1353 AD, when it was delivered to a church in France, which is over 1,300 years after the death of Jesus Christ, thus raising many questions about its location in the missing time. In the 1980s, the Shroud of Turin was carbonated, and the results claim that it's a forgery. The researchers focused on the blood spots of a hypothetical crucifixion, intending to reconstruct the most likely position of the arms and body on the sheet. After all the investigations, a forensic anthropologist explained that if you look at the bloodstains as a whole, you realize that they contradict each other. Yet this does not dissuade those who believe in it, and there are those dedicated to proving and believing that this is indeed the cloth that was in the tomb of Christ. Number 1. NAZCA lines. About 250 miles south of Lima, Peru, near the shores of the Pacific Ocean, lies one of the most mysterious places in the world. Hieroglyphics made on Earth, known as NAZCA lines, giving credit to the indigenous populations who possibly created these symbols. At ground level, the lines are just that, lines on the ground. But when you're up high, you'll see that these lines take the form of animals, humans, and other designs. The two biggest questions when it comes to the NAZCA lines are why and how. The accuracy of these lines is amazing, and that is why it's very unlikely that they can be done in short periods. It's for this reason that some advocates of the paranormal argue that the indigenous people couldn't have drawn these designs on Earth without being able to fly. That's why extraterrestrials have been considered as their possible creators. Additionally, others say that the NAZCA indigenous could have built these symbols, but only with extraterrestrial instructions. Don't you think this archaeological mystery is really amazing and kind of scary? Are you one of those people who believe in life outside of Earth? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Which archaeological finds did you find the most mysterious yourself? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe. See you next time.